2030.
Saudi Arabia, the Public Investment Fund,
It's a
there's
big
a lot of
vision.
excitement
It's
around
transformational
specifically.
change. Every aspect of the kingdom, economic, social, cultural, religious.
The 2030.
This is the 2030.
Yalla.
This is the 2030 episode 51. Hey, Dr. Hanaa. Nice to see you. Welcome back. How is Japan?
Hello. Thanks. Japan was amazing. It was just a really great trip. Different world. A lot of uncontrollable laughter with my family because of the culture shock and just being. There was some absurd moments, let's just say, but also so good. Really, just an amazing country. Loved it.
It does feel like a different planet in some ways. Like it feels like a sci-fi movie in some ways. It's also like one of the more beautiful countries in terms of geography and like landscape, which is also striking because it's such a technological like situation. And with Tokyo being like the largest city, it's crazy. That's awesome. They would tell us you went all around. You went to Tokyo, Kyoto.
Yes.
Like,
So I was actually, I did a lot. We went to Tokyo, Osaka, Hiroshima, Kyoto. So we did quite a few. And I was in Osaka during the expo. However, we didn't get a chance to go because we'd already like solidly packed our schedule. So I didn't see this incredible Saudi pavilion that people were talking about. And I was a little bit sad about it. And the last time I was at an expo, I was a child. So we're not going to talk about the year, but it would have been nice to go do another one. But you know what? I'm waiting for the Saudi expo. So it'll be okay.
You got to save up for the Saudi one. Although
Exactly.
I hear the Saudi pavilion in Japan was top notch.
Still, it's ongoing. I mean,
it's still
like
going.
Months. Okay. Yeah, it's months. So you can still go.
So you can
and
always
Osaka's
go back.
A cool city.
Yeah.
Osaka, so like Tokyo was so pristine and everything was just like a well-oiled machine and everything is perfect. And then Osaka is like the way Faris described it, he was like, it's like people don't even care here. It's like there's litter in the streets and there are people that are really loud and they talk on the trains and it was really funny because there's a rivalry between like Tokyo and Osaka. And so like in Tokyo, when you're on an escalator, you have to stand on the left. And if you want to walk up the escalator, you do that on the right. And in Osaka, they do it the other way around. Just to stick it to Tokyo.
Just to stick it to Tokyo. Yeah. Take that, Tokyo.
Exactly.
Look at what side we're walking on.
I'm like, that's where you're rebelling. That's hilarious.
Tokyo is so it's one of my favorite cities, I think, in the world. It's so well run. It's so organized. The trains, the cities, like when you have an intersection, which in Tokyo are so massive in some like places where it's like this is a whole like neighborhood that is a paved intersection, the like orderly walking from like one side to the other where you need to go is so rad. Like I love that level of organization.
Are you referring to like the Shibuya crossing?
Maybe
the famous one where it's like everybody's crossing at the same time, but they just you still make it to the other
yeah, and you're
side.
kind of like, how are people not dying here, right? Like every single day. Yeah, and the food, obviously, Tokyo. I mean, outstanding. I hope you agree, but if you love sushi, that's where you could be.
They also say that like Osaka is the kitchen of Japan, so there's a rivalry there as well. But it was all delicious. The food everywhere was so good. And yes, I mean, we are sushi fanatics, so it was amazing for that. Really fresh, amazing sushi.
And your children love sushi as well?
They do. They do.
Awesome. I think I'm a little ways away from that.
I have very adventurous children when it comes to their culinary tastes, which is really, really great. But it also can be really expensive. It's like, would you like a kids menu and some chicken nuggets? And they're like, no, could we have the like whatever,
Wagyu
the
beef,
omakase, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I try the sea urchin, please? What about pufferfish? Like they're just really adventurous. So
hey, mom and dad, it says that they spent $1 million on this one bluefin tuna. Do you think we could maybe buy some of that and cook it up?
Yeah, basically. Well, we went to that place where the guy that like was renowned for kind of always getting the most expensive tuna, but it's now like almost like a fast food sushi chain. It's really funny. But there's like something like 7 of them within like, like walking distance from one another. Sushi Zenmai, but it did feel like a bit of a fast food sushi situation. But it's the guy that has this huge tuna and like whatever. He usually wins or bids the highest on these tuna fish.
But that's not going in the fast food for the fast food customers, right? That's at a different table, maybe in the back, maybe a different restaurant. Yeah.
Well, they distribute. He has
lucky
such a
customer
big chain that it like goes all over or whatever. Anyway, it was a fun, incredibly fun trip. But I'm actually just happy to be back in a place where I speak the language and I know what's going on, and people aren't like expecting me to bow or do something, and I just feel like a little like relieved to be back in a culture that I can navigate a little bit more easily.
Yeah. One of the things that I love also about Japan is like I really love going into convenience stores. I'm a big like I like to eat trash like snacks and stuff. Like which is really bad, but like I love going into other countries and checking out their convenience stores and like looking at all the weird snacks. There is no weirder place for that in the entire world than Tokyo, where they have like the weirdest flavored potato chips and things like that. But one thing that I loved when I was there is that they have canned coffee machines. At least they did when I was there everywhere. And I love the concept of just like, hey, here's a can of coffee. Like, there you go. I don't see it in the US ever. And here it's all like energy drinks and stuff. I don't know. I love that part.
I mean, their vending machines are literally next level for sure. And yes, I mean, there was this rivalry. Which one is it? Is it Lawson? Is it Family Mart? Is it 7-Eleven? And my kids got really into that as well. So I talked to this one guy on our food tour that we went on in Tokyo, and he was like, well, 7-Eleven is great for snacks. Lawson might be better for like the like kind of organic snacks because they have like a Lawson Green. And Family Mart, they have this thing called a Fammy Chickie, which is like a chicken nugget basically, but a big one. And that became this thing, like the Fammy Chickie, because from Family Mart. I actually never had one.
That's sweet.
Oh, it's huge. Not only is 7-Eleven there, which is huge, it's like on every corner. But there's a coffee chain that used to be super popular in Seattle that is everywhere in Japan as well, Tully's. It went out of business in the US. And so like we get to our hotel and it's right next to a Tully's. And I was just like, what? Tully's is like, but it kind of, Abdullah was like describing Tokyo. He's like living in the year 2000 since 1980. And it basically is. It's like, it's been
so accurate.
It's so accurate. And so I'm like, down to the Tully's, right? It's so funny. Anyway.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm so glad you had an awesome time. Now you've made me want to go back to Tokyo so I can snack away these like, ramen flavored chips and whatever. Yeah. While you were traveling on your sort of global vacation,
I went to one country, but yeah, okay.
It was a international global trot. I moderated several panels at an event that really should have featured you very heavily, and which was the Human Capability Initiative in Riyadh, which was awesome. I'm not trying to make you feel jealous. I'll do that in a second. But it was just a really cool event. It was all focused on kind of things like future of work and, upskilling the next generation.
Concepts.
These are things that are your professional focus. And because you weren't able to attend, I thought it'd be a really great opportunity to meet all of your friends and then have them individually send you pictures of them with me, which I really enjoyed as part of the event. But it was really cool. You were missed, of course. You probably would have been better moderating those panels than I was.
I would have been speaking on them.
Ooh, touche. That's true. You would have. That would have been really cool, by the way, if they had put us on a panel where I was moderating and you were speaking. By the way, that's how we met. Many people know now, but we met at this event last year. I saw Gata, our recurring guest, Hanaa, talked with her for a while. She's so great. Anyways, awesome. Great event. Congrats to the organizers.
What was your like highlight, top 3 things that you got to do at HCI, because like I am super jealous, and there were friends of mine that were definitely there, colleagues, and just events that I wanted to be at, and I was very jealous and had some serious FOMO, but I had to keep telling myself I'm actually in Japan having a great time with my family, so it's okay. But
Yeah.
tell me, top three.
Well, it sucks when you're on vacation and there's like something going up. You get a little bit of maybe not you, but I get a little guilt that I'm not, in the mix. I would say number one, and we don't have to do three, but one was a panel I did with Nabil Koshak from SVC, Dong Soo Kim from LG Ventures, and Jonathan Ortzman from the Global Entrepreneurship Network. It was all VC. All these panels, like you kind of get up there and you don't have a lot of time to really get into what you like, because each of those guys could do a great 1 hour podcast. And so you have to get them, I like to get them interacting with each other as much as possible, which means taking myself out of the conversation as much as possible. But it was just really cool. And it was kind of interesting talking about how VC kind of impacts labor movements, like from a broad view, creating companies, which creates jobs. And in that process, there are new skills that are being developed. Of course, across the whole forum, AI was just like dominating the conversation, as it should. Really cool. Another separate panel with Dr. Moody Al-Jamea, who knows you as well, from STC.
Jama.
I said Al-Jamea, and she said that's fine.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's in Jama.
Okay, Al-Jama. Okay. Why didn't she correct me? That's okay.
It's okay.
It was just awesome. And then I think one of the best in terms of like conversation, they had one format that was a circle format. It was a smaller stage. It was full though. So before you make your jokes, it was not the main stage, but it was a round table smaller stage. And I was like, this is so much better for like my style of whatever I do. And I opened it up because there was a huge hole in the middle of the table. And I was like, well, there's no Kebsa on this table. And people laughed. It was a better joke than that. But and I don't know where that came from.
Why did they laugh?
I don't know, because I have no idea. It was funny though.
Sorry.
Better
It's
delivered.
hilarious.
It just was great. It was a great event, really cool. Hope they keep building up the momentum for it. Anyway, it was a great kind of revisit to Riyadh. I'll be back there another 10 days or whatever it is, when actually you will be there as well. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
cool.
Talking about future of work and some career guidance stuff.
Well, you're a couple weeks late on that topic.
Well, I'm going to be doing a lot of that roundtable stuff that you were just talking about, but in a different context. And then next year, inshallah, at HCI, I can talk about something huge that I'm working on. So
I have told them that I don't really think that you're needed at the event. I think that they get sort of a better bargain and better deal with Lucien. They get a little bit of both.
I don't think that
it's
no, but it would be cool to convene at HCI and talk about the 2030 in another context, maybe.
Yeah. I didn't mention the 2030, I think, at all the whole time, but people did come up and say, hey, you're that dude. And I'm like, yeah, it's me, man. What's up?
Did people recognize you?
They didn't recognize me, but they probably saw it on the program and were like, oh, I've seen or heard it,
cool.
Or listen to it now. Things like that. Yeah. But nobody was like, oh my God, Lucien, can I get a selfie with you? And I was like, do you know Dr. Hanaa? If you can send it to her, then yes. If not, no.
Otherwise, no.
Yeah. Feedback. This is from a older segment we did on Sindala Island. This is from Gonzo Jazz at Gonzo Jazz. He or she commented, yeah, what the world needs is another resort, with an eye roll. Yeah, I don't know. Do we have too many resorts? Like,
I don't know. I mean, Gonzo, I don't know who he is and actually if he's a real person or not. But what I will say is there is a little bit of over tourism, and I experienced some of that in Japan. So perhaps he's right. But I don't think there's over tourism on Sindala Island.
Or Saudi. That's the whole point, is to get people to come visit. I just wanted to read some negative feedback. We don't get a ton of it. This one is from @AK, 5 numbers, AK, commented, nice report, especially if you're in the field. This is on the $2 billion livestock city, Kafr al-Batin. Yeah. And I wanted to read this because I thought there might be a double entendre in field. Get it? If you're in the field. Anyway, this is from Daruk. I'll follow the channel. This is a really catchy name, 2030. Love it. Okay. maybe new listener or viewer there. Anyway, our intro is really long today, but I want to hear about Japan. I wanted to brag about HCI and how nobody missed you. But let's get into a deep dive, Dr. Hanaa.
Yes, let's get to a deep dive.
At long last.
So my deep dive today, you don't even know what it's about, right? I'm surprising
I'm coming
you.
in raw, man. I
It's
don't know
a
anything.
surprise deep dive, and it's on a
Okay.
topic that you make fun of me for all the time. But what I'm going to do is that we haven't done a recap of some of the Arabic content that's out there in quite some time. So I was listening to the Suqrat episode with Omar al-Jarasi on the Eastern Province and whether or not the Eastern Province has missed out on development, because this is something that we do talk about a little bit on the show. So Fahad al-Jubair basically was the guest engineer. Fahad al-Jubair, he's a senior figure in the municipal affairs with over 40 years of experience, including leadership roles across Riyadh, Jeddah, and now the Eastern Province. And the conversation between Omar al-Jarasi on the podcast Suqrat by Thamania and engineer Fahad al-Jubair really tried to clarify what's happening on the ground, explore different achievements within the Eastern Province's development, and tackle some key misperceptions. So when you do think about development, giga projects, huge infrastructure projects within Saudi, they're all in Riyadh, and a lot of them are happening along the Red Sea coast. So what's happening on the Gulf Coast? What is happening in the Eastern Province? A lot of, you talked a little bit about Jebel in another deep dive that we've done. We've talked a little bit about the Eastern Province being where Aramco's headquartered, and it being kind of a very kind of geographically proximal space in Saudi to the rest of the GCC countries. But what's happening when you're thinking about Vision 2030 in the Eastern Province? So I think the big question was, is it progress or stagnation? What's happening? And engineer Jubair really acknowledged that urban development across Saudi has experienced significant change over the past decades, but that the Eastern Province has not actually been stagnant, and that's a misperception. He's pointed out that a lot of cities have lost kind of distinct architectural and urban identities with this fast and unplanned expansion, and that despite that, the Eastern Province has really worked carefully to balance modernization with maintaining a distinct urban character, especially along the coastal areas. And he talked a little bit about infrastructure and what's happening kind of with roads, traffic, safety. And I mean, even thinking about where I live in Dammam, there's been a huge kind of project that just recently was rolled out to make it a lot safer to circumnavigate some of the traffic that's coming from ports. For instance, we have these big trucks and they're there. And it's quite dangerous to kind of merge on and off of some of the highways. So they're thinking of ways to really upscale the traffic kind of experience and really make sure that health and safety is taken into consideration. But actually, according to recent national evaluations, the Eastern Province has the highest quality roads in the country as a whole. And unlike in the past, traffic today flows much more smoothly thanks to some of those redesigned intersections, the removal of unnecessary traffic signals, better traffic management systems, new tunnels, new bridges, and also new roads and kind of on-ramps and off-ramps, depending on where you are. And accident rates also is a big thing. So this is something that Aramco works on so much. And actually, Maylim Zaini, who is a mentor to me and the founder of the Arab Institute for Women's Empowerment, but previously worked in Aramco for several years, has worked extensively on traffic safety. The Eastern Province has the lowest traffic fatality rate in the kingdom, which is an impressive outcome of smarter urban planning, better road safety measures, and a lot of PSAs actually from Aramco. But that urban planning isn't only about making things beautiful, it's also about saving lives. And that's something that the Eastern Province does really well. And it's a much more orderly kind of process with it, like getting from point A to point B on roads within the Eastern Province than it can be in some other parts. Traffic deaths have been dramatically reduced as a direct result of careful interventions. So what about this whole perception of falling behind? Alma raises a key question in the podcast. Why do so many citizens feel like the Eastern Province has been neglected? Was the key question he was asking. And Jubair explains major national projects like NEOM, The Line, Gadia, they're massive, they're new, they have a huge media presence. Meanwhile, the Eastern Province has a steady incremental development process rather than massive headline grabbing projects. But additionally, since the Eastern Province is already economically mature with oil, petrochemicals, and the ports, it hasn't needed the same type of new investments that other emerging regions have needed. You're not building something from scratch. So there's this perception of neglect that actually stems from a lack of dramatic announcements, but not a lack of real progress. And there are some future plans that are really exciting, especially new coastal projects. So looking ahead, by 2026, several new tourism and coastal projects are supposed to be completed. The projects include new waterfronts, recreational areas, and maritime transport hubs to boost both tourism as well as quality of life. And the investment incentives are being developed to attract private sector developers to the region. If you go to the Eastern Province today, especially if you go along the Khubar Corniche, you will see so much progress and a lot of areas that are being redeveloped. My kids and I recently were in Saudi for Eid, and we went to the Corniche and had a fantastic time walking along the coastline. And I think that's something that people forget is available to you. There is room for improvement for sure, and now you're watching that happen. So there's a couple of establishments that are on the beach, and I went to a spinning class on the beach last December, which was super fun. And you can do more of these things today, and I think that these are areas that maybe again aren't making headlines, but are really being developed. There's so much potential with the coastline. It can become a world-class destination, and plans are really in place to unlock that. But generally speaking, like I've seen a survey and I don't really know where it stems from, and I didn't do any additional research. It wasn't in the podcast, but Khobar is talked about as the second most beautiful Arab city. And it is a gorgeous place. Like the Gulf is a beautiful body of water. It's different from the Red Sea, but it still is there and it still has incredible presence to it. Um, Aside from that, like the Eastern Province is ranked, according to engineer Jubair, as the cleanest region in Saudi. The municipalities have invested heavily in sanitation, waste management, public maintenance. So it's a great place to live if you want to think about like your day to day and the quality of life. There's a lot of innovative practices that have to do with smart waste collection systems, sustainability initiatives, and so on. But you also have the connectivity. So when you're thinking about the commercial viability of it, aside from the industrial cities and Jubail and the port, you have incredible kind of efforts in maritime transport development, connecting different cities along the Gulf Coast to ferries as well as water taxis as a future plan. And these are projects that are expected to really ease congestion on land routes and boost interprovincial tourism and commerce. There are some challenges. We need to have realistic expectations. Urban expansion can outpace service provision, and budget constraints occasionally can delay implementation. But residents' expectations are rising very fast, and they're driven by that broader national transformation project of the vision. So he does believe that the province is on the right track with a clear strategic vision. And just a couple final thoughts. Engineer Fahd Jubair argues that the Eastern Province is not behind. It is developing steadily, carefully, and sustainably. And the next few years, we're going to see more visible projects that will satisfy public expectations. His ambition for the region to become a model of balanced urban development, economically strong, socially inclusive, and environmentally sustainable is one that I think is incredibly important. So it was a great episode. It clarified while flashy mega projects elsewhere dominate headlines, the Eastern Province is continuing to undergo meaningful, thoughtful progress that really does promise major dividends in the near future.
Such a good topic that I think it's discussed. This is the kind of stuff that like you're just not really going to find a discourse on in English. And I know we're sort of taking another podcast, distilling it for a larger audience, but this is the type of thing where you'd get a question about it from somebody that really doesn't know, and even people that do know what's going on in the other cities outside of Riyadh. Everything seems like it's Riyadh, Riyadh, Riyadh. I mean, that is what the headlines say, as you said. I think it's interesting to talk about this in the context of Khobar and Dammam and the Eastern Province in general as having a lot of the infrastructure and other, ports and Jubail and et cetera, and Aramco, of course, like all of that was there before the vision. So, I mean, if you think about it and you look at population growth since 2015 in Saudi Arabia, right? Actually, Khobar, of the top, what is it, 6 cities in Saudi Arabia, Khobar has had the largest percentage growth in population between 2015 and 2025 at 35%. Actually ran the numbers while you were talking because I was interested in, hey, like if it's all Riyadh, and it has more giga projects, it would sort of make sense, right? That giga projects, any development, metro, whatever you want to say, it would make sense that it would get a proportional amount of these projects based on population. Riyadh has grown 27.9% in population, which is just barely ahead of Dammam. But again, Riyadh's population in 2025 is almost 8 million, 7,953,000, growth rate of 27%. So, I mean, like all of the cities of Saudi Arabia have grown in population in the 20% range, 20 to 30%, all of them except for Jeddah, which is at 8.4%. There's a common belief or understanding, and I've heard it from people, that a lot of the talent from Dammam, Khobar, Jeddah, Mecca, Medina are going to Riyadh because that's where some of the best opportunities are. Well, that's where the government is. And the government is very tied to things like PIF and all other spending and development that's happening in Saudi Arabia. So that makes sense. Just like Washington, D.C. sort of has this economic, recession boom proof job market because there are a lot of government jobs there. But I mean, Riyadh's population is 6 times roughly what Dammam's is, and maybe 5.5 or 5% when you combine Dammam and Khobar. So it should be getting roughly equal to that in terms of projects and new development. But when you put that in the context of what you said about how actually Dammam and Khobar are older and they've had a lot more investment before the vision. So, I mean, I think both things can be true. I think it's true that Riyadh is getting a lot of these headline grabbing projects. The government is there and they are investing a lot in that city. It's the capital, right? But I also feel like, it's not like a conscious decision to neglect these other cities. It's far from that. And I think it's really good that what you highlighted, all these things that are happening there in Dammam and Khobar. I know that I like to tease you about the Eastern Province, but jokes aside, I mean, I've been there maybe 5 times in my life, maybe more, but it's certainly like, it's certainly beautiful. You could definitely say that. And it's just not like the largest, those two aren't the largest city in Saudi Arabia. So it's easy to draw the conclusion that, hey, like Riyadh is getting all the attention. It's the only city that they're investing in. And it's just not really true. It's good to have that spelled out. I think that was really good.
Thank you. I mean, I think
You're welcome.
from the Eastern Province, obviously there's bias. So it's hard for me to really take a step back and just tell you exactly like whether or not I think that this is objectively true or not. But I think the important thing to think about is there are choices that people make about where they want to live. And like when we talk, for instance, to Faisal Durrani about where people are investing in real estate and where they're purchasing homes and so on, a lot of Saudis want to live close to their larger extended family. And so many will maybe move to Riyadh, but that could be time bound and they'll want to come back to their cities of origin. Not to say that that's the Eastern Province, because the Eastern Province is full of people that have moved there from all over Saudi Arabia, especially because they're there to work for Aramco or something similar, another one of the companies that supports Aramco. So I think some of the choice is related to kind of cultural practice, but another choice is related to pace and day-to-day life. So Riyadh is obviously bright lights, big city. So much is going on.
It's insane. Yeah.
And sometimes it just makes a little bit more sense for people, if they can find a good job, to stay in a quieter place, especially if you're raising a young family or if you want to be close to your parents or your extended family for whatever reason, or the affordability dimension is something that you're factoring in. So maybe it just makes a little bit more sense to go to Riyadh 3 or 4 times a week and then live in the Eastern Province. I do see some of that happening. We've talked about that before on the show as well. But I think in general, like everything that you need, at the moment, there's a bit of a mall shortage. There was a really big fire in Mall of Lahran a couple of years ago, and they never actually like rebuilt it. So the one mall where you can actually go shopping, unlike a place like Riyadh where there's malls everywhere, is like way in deep Dammam. Like nobody wants to go to it if you're in Khabar. So there's an issue with some of the shopping. I'm not gonna lie, it's an actual problem. Like Rashid Mall is under construction. They're revamping it. When I asked the guy in one of the shops, like, when's the construction going to be over? He's like, Yom al-Qiyamah, which means like Judgment Day. He's like, it's never gonna happen. So it's gonna be gorgeous when it's done, but it's under construction. And then Mall of Lahran burnt down, and so like you don't have either of those. But you have a new avenues that is under construction, so that's gonna open soon. Mall of Lahran is meant to be redone completely as well. And the malls that are in Dammam aren't so bad. There's just like, if you don't live in Dammam, it's harder to get to. So other than like some of these challenges that are like temporary, everything you need and want is in the Eastern Province. And it's a great place. And there's a lot of recreational activities. And there's a lot to do. It's just a quieter part of the country, but it's a great one.
Heaven forbid there aren't enough shopping malls for you. I know that's a huge
not
struggle.
Me. No,
not you.
The Saudi population. Think about like what people do in Saudi. Come on.
I just have never heard of a shortage of malls in Saudi Arabia. That is
it's a crazy thing.
I would ever hear.
It's so funny. It's because the two major malls are going through some stuff.
Okay.
So I think one of the other reasons that I'm bringing this up is I was listening to another podcast this morning about these people that like moved into a secret apartment in a mall in like New Haven or something. It was so good. Anyway, 99% invisible. Shout out to them.
Okay. It's funny because my children think malls, because they only associate them with the like really amazing, pretty much only in Saudi or really I've only seen them in Saudi, these like massive play businesses for children where you like go in and it's just like unreal. Like I really wish I had gotten to do this as a kid. So they associate shopping malls with that. And so they think malls are like equal playgrounds and they think they're the coolest things. They keep asking about shopping malls. And I'm like, shopping malls are like my least favorite thing ever.
Many people will say that.
Yeah, but I'm like trying to convey excitement about what they're talking about. Oh, I love them, for you. But anyway, that's really cool. This is a good topic. It's something that people sort of talk about over dinner conversations and in meetings casually, hey, like what's going on in Saudi Arabia as a whole? Is the development, distributed equally across the cities, and what's happening over in Dammam and Al Khobar? So this is really cool. Thank you for sharing this. And by the way, why would I make fun of you for, the Eastern Province Pro thing? Is that what the source of the topic was, or like what you thought I would make fun of you for?
No, exactly. Just kind of like, because I'm you're always talking about me being the EP girl and that I talk about the EP too much, and I'm, obviously from there and love it. So I will obviously talk about my hometown.
No, but my favorite segments or some of my favorites are when you do translate these very popular podcast conversations that are in Arabic, because if you don't do it, then no one will hear it, including myself. But then not no one, but people that don't speak Arabic likely won't hear it. The conversation topic is just as important as any language that it could be in. Hugely valuable service.
Just on that as well, I think, this is a question. It's a question that Saudis are asking, and Omar is great at asking some of these tough questions. And so what I really like about listening to Saqrat is like, I want somebody to answer these questions for me as well. What is happening? And so just the fact that it's being covered means that it is a topic that everyday Saudis are talking about all the time.
Yeah, and that the answer is clear from authorities' side, and there's a plan, there's a strategy, there's substance behind that he can speak to. Just really good. Let's get to the news.
Let's get to the news. So Saudi Arabia's tourism workforce has grown to hit 966,000 people. Employment in Saudi Arabia's tourism sector has climbed 4% year on year in the final quarter of 2024. It's very exciting. I think this is new data from the General Authority of Statistics that really showed that the workforce has included 1,073 Saudi nationals. So this growth is creating new jobs for young Saudis. They make up 20% of the labor force, which is great. I mean, it's still dominated by an international workforce, but I think at the same time, you're seeing more Saudis go into the sector. The figures come in the same week that it was announced that from April 2026, 41 tourism roles are going to be Saudized, nationalized, including hotel managers, travel agency directors, and tour guides. So it's one of those things that Saudi Arabia does when they feel like they need more locals to integrate into certain sectors. This is something that they're doing to really reduce that reliance on foreign labor within the sector and get more Saudis on board. The data has showed as well that hotel occupancy has remained relatively stable at 56% compared to 60% a year earlier. Okay, so there's a little bit, maybe that has a little bit to do with the expansion in capacity, but generally speaking, the message is tourism is continuing to dominate within Saudi Arabia. It's growing. We need more people working within the sector, and there has been an increase in some service departments as well as an increase in new hotels and new licenses. And there's also been kind of an upgrade to the types of establishments that can get licenses as well, really trying to make sure that it's a great kind of tourist spot and destination for people.
Yeah. So what? 3% of all people living in Saudi Arabia are working in the tourism sector. That seems really high. Maybe not high comparatively to other countries. I'm actually not sure on the comp, but that's a lot of tourism employees. They're shooting for 1.6 million jobs in the sector by 2030. And that's part of the 150 million visitors are looking to attract to make tourism contribute, I think, 10% of GDP. Yeah, 10% of GDP. And this includes a women's participation rate of 13.3% of the total employees. So work to be done there in tourism. The highest employment levels were reported in Riyadh and Mecca regions. Sorry, Eastern Province. We just talked about it. No offense. That's okay. Both of those two regions. And of course, that makes sense, right? Riyadh, the biggest city, and the Mecca Medina region as host of the Hajj and Umrah. Together, those two regions accounted for nearly 2/3 of the total workforce in tourism-related activities. So just a note on this, when we talk about tourism, it's important to highlight that there is so much happening in, of course, arts and culture and entertainment, sports, etc., that is driving more tourism to places like Riyadh, but all over the country. Riyadh Art Week just concluded last week, which was held from 6th of April to the 13th of April, 2025. So 2 weeks ago, actually. And it was sort of like a milestone in Saudi Arabia's cultural evolution, one could say. People are saying. We can't really do it full justice here. I think it's worthy of a deep dive or a guest feature, Dr. Hanaa. Hopefully we can
We can
broker.
facilitate that, I think.
Facilitate, yeah. But that event's really cool. I was there and I missed it, sadly, actually. I was aware it was going on. I was kind of, bright lights, big city, as you said. It's a pretty busy place, but it's just really cool. There's a lot going on in tourism. So, yeah.
Yeah, and a congrats to Dina Amin and her team on the Riyadh Art Week, actually. Just a big shout out to her, previous guest on the 2030.
Congrats. Yeah, I always think about people that put on big events, and I'm always so happy for them for like the 1 week after the event. And really the first few days when any event is over, like HCI or any of these big events, the people that are working on it have been working on something for a year, maybe longer. And then it like all happens in a day or two. And then there's just like this like collective exhale that happens over a week. And I always like reach out to anybody doing events like that and just like say, how does it feel right now? Just to have like not this major event holding it, over your head.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. The 11th Saudi Film Festival concluded this week after a week-long event at the Ithra Theater in Dhahran, in that amazing building.
In the Eastern Province.
Oh, here we go. I see. It's what percentage of the show have we been talking about the Eastern Province? A lot. Maybe out of proportion to the population. Since 2022, the Saudi Film Festival has been organized by the Cinema Association in collaboration with the King Abdulaziz Center for World Culture, also called Ithra, and with support from the Saudi Film Commission. This year it was co-hosted by Aixa K alongside Khalid Soccer. How do you say that name? Aixa.
I don't know how you say it.
Aixa.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. The theme of this year's festival was, quote, stories seen and told, placing a strong emphasis on identity cinema. A wide range of films delved into the themes of memory, belonging, and a sense of place, offering perspectives that were personal, social, and artistically rich. 68 films, including 7 Saudi and Gulf feature films, 22 short films, and 7 documentaries were shown. In the feature film competition, My Driver and I, directed by Ahd Kamel.
Ahad Kamel.
Ahad,
That one
okay.
I know.
Ahad. It's missing a couple of vowels in there. It took home the Golden Palm for Best Feature Film, standing out among strong contenders such as Hobal by Abdulaziz Al-Shahlahi and
I don't actually
Sawar.
know. I have to read it in Arabic.
Okay.
Another,
and Sawar by Osama Al-Kureji. You really wanted to chalk this one full of names just to give me the rundown. The judging panels featured filmmakers and critics from both Saudi Arabia and the international community. The festival concluded by awarding 40 prizes from 16 sponsors, including Cha-Ching, 2,557,500 Saudi riyals, 681,000 greenbacks. The prizes were distributed among Saudi and Gulf film projects in various stages of development and production. The film Green Corpse won the NBC Academy and Shahid Platform Award, and they won 150,000 riyals.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I mean, I think it's cool. Like it's been going on for 11 years, as we mentioned. It's the Saudi Film Festival, so it's different to some of the other ones. Like you have the Red Sea Film Festival, which is more of an international film festival. This one is looking at local and regional producers and films. So some of the key people that were featured were people that are well known within the country as leading in new Saudi media. It basically also featured kind of workshops that were led by some of the local and international experts in the field. There was a production market, so that was a platform for filmmakers to network, pitch projects, secure funding, and so on. There were 285 film submissions, so it really does show that there is rapid growth within this sector. And it didn't only celebrate kind of the cinematic achievements, but I think it's really important just to note that the kingdom's commitment to cultural expression and international collaboration through arts and film is really, really taking off. And also, I think it's important to note that, like, in a place that is still looked at from the outside as very conservative, women in film is really a big thing today. The number one film was directed by a woman, which is incredible. But also you had the Saudi actresses gracing the red carpet. Women are very visible within this space. There were so many people from within the Saudi film industry, Mira Zahrani, Nermeen Mohsen, Amira Sharif, just to mention a couple. So yeah, I think it's important to highlight the significance of this cultural event. Riyadh Air has recently released their Boeing 787 cabin designs. This actually should have been your news bit.
No, I get to react to it. I'm stoked. Yeah, this is awesome.
They unveiled its interior cabins ahead of a launch that's due later this year, which is obviously delayed because of Boeing being late in delivering some of the aircraft. But
Washington State based. You see how you leave that out when there's a delay, but if there's some big win for Boeing, you're like, oh, don't forget.
So yeah, basically Riyadh Air is backed by PIF. It's already ordered dozens of Airbus A321 Neos and up to 72 Boeing 787 Dreamliners. And the cabin reveal was super cool. Like last year, they revealed what the kind of the uniforms were going to look like at the Haute Couture Week in Paris. But this year, they're telling you what the actual experience is going to be like. So the color palette was revealed. There's some lavender tones, some mocha gold accents. But one of the things that I thought was really cool, which I flew Qatar Air just recently, and the way that the flat beds can turn into a double bed, and you can have like the 4 kind of seats into one big suite. So if you're a family of 4, like everybody gets some really nice cushy bed. It's amazing. There's that happening in the Riyadh Air cabins as well. But like it's not a roll the dice situation. All of the new aircraft is going to be equipped with this. You're not going to be like surprised by an early morning email that says that you've been downgraded by the aircraft replacement when you fly Riyadh Air, which is super exciting. But yeah, there's these great. The one thing that I thought was really cool was these um, euphony system, which means that passengers aren't going to need to wear headphones because there's smart speakers that are built into the seats. And so this apparently was debuted on kind of Japan Airlines, but basically this French manufacturer audio company has installed smart speakers that if you lean back or whatever, you can listen to whatever you're watching on these 22.5 inch wide TV screens, which is pretty cool. No, that's not. That's the size of the seats laying flat. I think it's a bigger screen actually.
32 inch, right?
There you
well,
go.
in
30
business, yeah. Okay.
Right. 32-inch
big.
TVs in business, but they're big. Anyway, everybody has a sliding door for privacy. Premium economy seats also are really nice. They're similar to the Emirates ones. But I think that just end of the day, this looks like a great airline to fly, and I cannot wait for a Riyadh Air flight.
I think you could just sum up what I'm about to say next as I'm extraordinarily excited for Riyadh Air for a number of reasons. Options of getting to and from Saudi Arabia being number one, because the Saudia flights to and from DC, New York, and the destinations that they fly in the US direct, which is a terrific option because you're just there in 12 hours or whatever it is from DC anyway. That's you can't beat that. I mean, even like a really awesome flight that has a layover just adds what effectively is half a workday to your travel. So that's awesome. Looking forward to that. And I would love to hear, I didn't see anything about this, but I'd love to hear about what their plan is for internet, because if the internet is good, I will 1 million. Is there a plan?
Yeah. There's a plan for
me.
internet. So I didn't mention it here. I don't think it's going to be Starlink, but there is going to be, if you're a member, you get free internet the entire flight. That's what I read.
Okay. Well, okay. So
streaming quality, like
streaming
Starlink
quality internet. That's excellent.
Exactly.
I took Turkish Air back on the way back from Riyadh 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago, I guess. And the internet was awesome. And I was like, this is actually almost a game changer. I'm almost willing to go through Istanbul because of this. It changes the whole thing. On the design, it's so funny because, Tony Douglas has this little bit of a Don Cherry in him. Almost nobody listening is going to know who that is, but he's a famous Canadian hockey broadcaster who would wear a very colorful suit, different suit every single night on Hockey Night in Canada. He's a legend in Canada. And Tony Douglas has the same vibe. I mean, he is not going with the navy blue and black shoes situation. He's going for a colorful look, which is kind of an identity thing. And then you see the interior of Riyadh Air, and it's, I think, quite elegant. It's sort of darker in color. And you look at the business class cabins, which they toured, they look sort of, I mean, the Boeing Dreamliners, the business class on that is awesome. Turkey had it on the way back from Istanbul. It's terrific. So that is super awesome. I'm so excited for Riyadh Air. I really am. And, even though one of the 50 states, Washington State, and its aircraft manufacturer, for whom I respect, is a little slow on these deliveries, those planes are terrific. And I think despite the delay, I think that's going to be awesome for these guys. I love debating Airbus, the A380 versus the Boeing equivalent with people. And I always take the opposite side of what they're arguing, because what are we really arguing about? But I think this is cool. This looks comfortable. Those premium economy seats, great option between business and economy. Saudia doesn't do it, but those seats are
neither
pretty cool.
does Butler Air, right? And so you really do. I think a premium economy is a great option. It's a midway option,
especially if you plan on being awake. For me, it's a chance to work. So if I'm going to be awake, I just want a little elbow room, a
little extra room,
yeah.
But I do also really like a nice cabin with privacy and a sliding door.
Yeah, we got to get somebody from them on here, and we should probably do a deep dive, because there's a ton of information in this news item we're just not even talking about, because I want to talk about seating and internet and comfort. But
exactly.
Congrats on them. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for the rollout. Saudi Arabia has concluded its 2025 F1 Grand Prix on April 20th, so a few days ago, hosted at the Jeddah Corniche Circuit. McLaren's Australian Oscar Piastri took his third win of the year. And with it, the World Championship lead at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. The race featured 50 laps at the 6.17 kilometer Jeddah Corniche circuit, run at night, which is really cool. The 5th round of the Formula One season in Saudi Arabia wrapped up an intense first triple header of 2025, in which Red Bull has been on a roller coaster ride and McLaren has continued to consolidate its position as championship favorite. To celebrate their 5th year hosting the event, J-Lo was in attendance. I just knocked something over on my desk.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
everybody. I was so
excited.
excited. J-Lo, wow. Also Usher and Diplo and a lot of other celebs and others flocked to Jeddah for that weekend full of cars and music. So there you go. There's some activity in Jeddah, really
super
cool.
exciting.
I got to go to this thing, man. It looks awesome.
I mean, so like 3-day concert that was powered by Middle Beast. And in case you missed it, like J-Lo shows up on Saturday, like wearing a Barbie suit, basically. She's amazing. She's this 55-year-old gorgeous woman and shows up wearing this striking, like zip front baby pink catsuit.
She looks great, man.
High ponytail, stilettos, just walking through Jeddah on her way. And she's performed at F1 apparently in the past, just it's been a while. So she headlined the show in Jeddah. She performed in many outfits, including like the Swarovski studded navy blue catsuit as well. But her appearance came alongside some other incredible performers like Usher, Major Lazer.
You don't know Major Lazer? Oh my god. Okay.
Anyway, Peggy Gou, and then some Arab artists like Hisham Abbas, Mustafa Amar, and Hamid al-Sha'ri, which is pretty cool. But it's part of the broader vision, like more tourism, more events, more entertainment. This is exciting. This came right after Bahrain hosted F1, which they've been doing for many years, and it's only 5 years in for Jeddah, but 5 years is a big milestone. So a massive congratulations to them, and great to have J-Lo on board, honestly. Jenny from the block.
What else has she done? She's got a ton of.
And
she's still with Ben Affleck.
Drama with there's drama.
They broke up again after they got back
together? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
They did.
Gosh,
Yeah.
But I love that
Bennifer.
story, 20 years later, whatever it is. Anyway, I know you need to go. I need to go. Great episode, Dr. Hanaa. We will be
Thank you so
back
much.
in a few days. Nice to see you again, back from Japan. Thanks, everybody.